innocence and childhood, he succumbed to optimism and dared to believe himself at home in this world. Soon afterward, he felt something else that he had not known for quite a long time and fell asleep in his seat.
This was from Orhan Pamuk.
Say again?
Is this from Orhan Pamuk?
Correct. It's from, I was going to say it after the
Okay,
second paragraph,
sorry.
but you got me, yes. This one is called Snow Irritating, and it's from the same novel. It's just a couple of paragraphs apart. Veiling as it did the dirt, the mud, and the darkness, the snow would continue to speak to Ka of purity, but after his first day in Kars, it no longer promised innocence. The snow here was tiring, irritating, terrorizing. It had snowed all night.
Okay, this one is called Population 2646. It refers to a people that perhaps once lived in Ani or went to Ani, and in a way they are at the moment not able to go there. So they are dispersed in this grid, unconnected, not connected to the road. So here are the two images together, which will get interleaved in the future.
So the way we're going to show is we're going to show the original image that was sent, the individual manipulations, and then you will see them next to each other, which, if you can imagine, is going to be interleaved to become that lenticular surface.
This is the second set of images. It's an aerial view of, again, showing Ani at the upper, what is that, middle, upper? Right here. Okay. So now the manipulation. Manipulation number one is turning Ani into a series of islands, and these islands are multiplying on the Turkish side. In a sense, it's kind of like a cancer. It's Ani has been forgotten, so this is Ani's revenge.
This one's called Akurian and Arpachai, which is the two names of the river currently. And it is basically an analysis of the river and how the river spreads through the topography, at times dividing and at times connecting.
This is the third image. It's a mosque. This is an attempt to kind of turn the inside of the, it's called inside out. It turns the inside of the mosque to the outside as a way to take over the land and reach out.
This one is called Mosque Dream. Here the mosque calls, well, the initial image had only the mosque, but in this image the mosque calls its neighbor basically, which is the cathedral that it has coexisted for many years, back into the picture. And here and this image is addressing the air from which you can actually float without touching the land, and there's somehow a indeterminacy in where these balloons will be landing.
Image number 4. This is the inside of the Cathedral of Ani.
This one's a fragment, and it is basically again, it's another, a lot of the images are about encountering a subject, more or less, for the first time in visual terms. So therefore, there is an introduction, an analysis. This is about looking at this image and being able to see only what is lit by the sun, and the rest is in dark. So taking that and the process of analyzing is overlapped into this image. So it's also recording and making the analysis of this image as a memory in itself.
become erased over time, sometimes whitewashed or dilapidated. In this case, a lot of Ani's, the frescoes that once existed on the inside of these cathedrals have been whitewashed. So this is an attempt to graffiti. So it becomes a surface that invites graffiti. So in this case, the exterior motifs of the cathedral become engraved in the interior of it. So this is called outside in.
This is the fifth one, I guess, right? Lost count, yeah. These are the walls protecting Ani.
So yes, these are the walls protecting Ani. So in this image, since these walls have lost their role, they haven't been able to protect Ani. They become clouds.
This is called sheep, and the sheep questions what is history and what's landscape. This is the last image of the visual conversation.
Yeah. This is actually taken from the mosque that we saw earlier that we manipulated. It's from the inside of the mosque looking at the bridge. This one's called Mind the Gap. Here you can see that the earth wants to join. It wants to go from one side to the other. They want to make this connection. And in this process, the bridge is being buried. So the bridge is yelling out, mind the gap.
So this image is similar to your description. Is again looking at what made this gap, what has formed this gap in a much more larger geological time, and it's an analytical drawing again of the river slowly carving out its own course. As you can see, also it's interesting that the river is relatively low compared to the hills above it. So it's also it's another questioning and investigation of this time, of this very long, slow time that has formed the gap.
So this was sort of a conclusion of the visual conversations, although it hasn't ended. We intend to continue these conversations, but this is where we are so far with the visual conversations. Now we go into the second phase of conversation, which is the graphic. We call it the graphic conversations. Here's Ani again, just to remind you, and that's the river. This is Armenia, this is Turkey. Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Okay, this image talks about the geological timeline. It describes the movement of the river through time as it makes this gorge between the two lands.
Overlapping with that are the coordinates, which are kind of anchoring this drawing, this land in a more neutral terms.
Yes, what is the scale per line on that representation? I would assume it would deal with a specific time interval, correct, since it is a geological representation.
It's a representation, so it is not an accurate tracing of the river itself.
I understand that, but what would be the value time-wise of each line there? Like a time span, would it be 10,000 years? Would it be, or maybe it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that.
Thank you.
So now we